Gentlemen, welcome back. It's Tony Perks, Chantel, aka Shantizzy, Chantelli, Shantizzy. You know what I mean. And we
So
back.
listen, I just have to say this really quick because my mom asked me
Gentlemen,
like over the
welcome back.
Thanksgiving holiday. She was like, "Why do they keep calling you Chantelli?" And I was like, "I don't know. I can't make them stop." Right?
Uh-huh.
And she's like, because this one calls you this. And I was like, I don't understand. And then
Yeah.
she started throwing out other nicknames that I will not say on this podcast.
Oh
And she
God.
was like, maybe they should just call you this. And I was like, absolutely not. My name is Chantel.
aka Shantizzy. But anyways. Sorry. It's funny. I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, I call her that because I can get away with it randomly, just because I don't know why. I just say
Because
I'm
I
just
can't
able to
make
get
you
away with
stop.
it. And she probably hates it, and I know this, and I'm willing to cross the line, but I don't recommend anybody else doing that, because you may not get the privileges I get with my friend. But anyways, yeah. So Shantizzy, what's up? How you doing?
Okay.
Chantel, how you doing, Chantel? Chantal.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so that's her answer, was hello. So let's get started. We're talking about this. Well, I said, how you doing? Hello, everybody. That means let's move on. All right. So Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith. All right. So um, we kind of know what's been going on with them. They've been getting in a lot of media coverage. One from his book that just came out. I don't know what it's called. Pretty much the memoirs of Will Smith, like the real Will Smith, to say the least. And she has been on a roll for a minute, starting with the uh, entanglement situation first, which was originally not started by her. I would say it was started by the guy who her entanglement was with, August
August made
August
himself look
Alsina or
real
something.
bad.
And I'm just like, okay. And we know, and the thing is, what was crazy about it was so left field. It was just a guy coming out of an album. Yeah, I slept with Jada. We were, I'm just like,
We
whoa,
was together, yo.
whoa, whoa. Like, this is Will Smith's wife. Hold up. This is Will Smith's wife. Like, hold up. You know what I mean? So it started there. They did their whole meeting about, the red table talk, and about, Will Smith was on the sidelines being the the other party, and trying to let her explain her side about the entanglements, which is aka a sexual relationship with somebody else, because either their relationship was open or because they were getting a divorce or in a bad spot, whatever the case was. Started there, and then it went on a barrage of other things, the last one being with her talking about sex life with Will, and learning how to please your partner's needs when they don't know what you want, and other stuff. And you know I was really mad at first. I'm gonna go first, real quick, Chantel. And let me
Please.
hold on. Let's do this, because your face is looking hella funny. You was like,
just I'm like,
no. So
please,
so
please, please tell me what it is.
I just really can't stand two things, and it's on either side. When a man makes his wife look stupid, or when a woman makes her man look stupid. But I'm particularly more irritated when I see a woman making her man look stupid for the world. Now,
Because
it just
it's,
stinks. And
it's
what
terrible.
makes it worse is just, it's already enough that, like, there is a stigma of black men in America in general. But then it's
Hmm.
like the extra sting of it having come from a black woman, and you're on a major platform. It irritates me, because, like, you don't have to go and, like, put your dirty laundry out there for everybody to see, when and I might get some backlash for this, but for some rights, you wouldn't be that relevant if it wasn't for Will Smith. So
Hey, hey, hey,
I said
hey,
I said I'm getting some
hey.
backlash for it. I'm just saying, that's, I'm
Okay,
not saying,
okay,
this is how
okay,
I feel. This is how I
okay,
feel. I
okay.
don't think you would be that relevant if it wasn't for Will Smith. And Will Smith is like one of the most famous black men in the world. Jada Pinkett was not the most famous black woman in the world. I mean, she fell off quite a while ago, and the only reason why I really see anything from her is because of the red table talk. In my personal, I'm not saying this may not be true. I'm just
I
saying what
know,
I've
but
seen.
it's harsh. You coming strong today.
I mean, it's just, that's just what I've seen. Like, I haven't seen her outside of the red table talk and her having these controversial moments that are embarrassing her husband. And then on top of the August thing, I didn't really wasn't hearing about the red table. I wasn't hearing really nothing about her before that, until she had, like, maybe a movie or something. I don't even know the movie she played in. I don't remember. I don't know nothing. I don't know. And I'm not saying, and that could be my opinion because I don't see it. So, warranted, this is my lens from where I live and in this sector of YouTube and the sector of the world. But I don't see nothing from her except for her looking stupid about making her man look dumb in front of everybody and make Will Smith look bad. And this is a guy who has protected his image for so long, and then it just gets torn down by the person he's with. And so for me, I take it like, why? Like, why do you put your husband, who's made all this money, made success, and protected your whole family in this position to keep doing damage control, not only over himself, but over you and over his kids? And for me, it's like, it's just frustrating. And sure, it's probably because I have some bias to Will Smith. I mean, I'll be honest, like, love the dude, man. Like, once I seen him cry when he said, "My daddy don't want me no more," and he cried on Nick, that shit, I
The
was like,
Fresh
sold
Prince
forever.
episode.
I said sold forever on him. You know what I mean? Like, that was beyond acting. Like, that took me a whole trajectory in my life different. So, like, when I hear that, it just gets me frustrated, but then I also have to take the fact that, Will, why do you allow this? Like, why are you letting it happen, bruh? Like, I can be mad at her, but reality is that's his relationship. It's his business, and he got to do damage control, and that's what he wanted to be with. So, I mean, I can't stand it, but Will, if you want, that's what you want, bro. I mean, shit, like, can we just learn to, like, not do this to each other? You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's how I feel. Like, I still don't like Jada as much anymore, not gonna lie. But I'll forgive her. I forgive her. But fuck, man, dog, just stop doing your man like that. Shit, already hard out here for a pimp. Know what I mean?
I just okay. Can
So
I
yeah,
say
all right.
something?
But go ahead. I digress.
Okay.
That was my 6-7 minutes of ranting today.
So I will admit that constantly hearing sound bites from Jada, she was starting to get on my nerves as well.
Okay.
I will say
Okay,
that.
I
I
ain't
will
alone.
say that.
Okay.
You're not alone. But I'll also say to that Will Smith also had a couple like sound bites of his own
Yes.
when he was saying like, you know, when he started first talking about being in an open marriage, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's really the one who put that out on Front Street, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
in Jada Pinkett and August Alsina's thing, she was saying like we were on a break, right? My husband and
Yeah.
I were on a break, and I had an entanglement with another man, right? That is very different from Will Smith going ahead to put in the streets that they had an open marriage. Didn't he put that in the streets and
He
said
did.
that
He
it
did.
was his
He did.
desire to be with as many women as possible, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
And to not like and to
yes.
knock all
Yes.
these women down, right?
But this is
That's
okay.
nope.
Okay. Yes, that's
Uh-uh.
true. But this is also after all that shit went down.
But
That came
again,
out
no,
way
no, 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 no.
after
That's what
all
I'm
that shit went
saying.
down. So I'm
It
saying.
is after
Okay?
no, it's after she talked about the entanglement, right?
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
Smith was the first one to put in the streets that they had an open marriage, right? Everybody had all this speculation for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he put that in the streets that it was an open marriage.
Okay.
Jada said we were on a break and I was
Mm-hmm.
with August. That's
Okay.
different. That's a little different from saying that you have an open marriage, right? Whatever.
Mhm.
Again, it's their business. My thing is everybody is constantly coming for Jada, right? About her
Mhm.
sound bites and things like that because she has the platform to be able to express herself. Like that is quite literally what her talk show is for, right? We have a
Okay.
talk show, we talk about whatever we want, right? We
Mm-hmm.
talk about ourselves where you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
She got her talk show, so it's her prerogative to put out there whatever she wants,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay. True.
And
More.
then Will Smith comes on after the fact when he's trying to sell a book
Mm-hmm.
and then decides to tell the world that his life is an experiment in unconditional love and all that stuff, which I think is dope. I respect it. But he's the one who ultimately put out that their marriage was open. And he did not get nearly any of the same backlash that everybody was Jada's way. And my friends, the problem. You know what I mean? Like that just speaks to it, right?
Okay.
Like we're all so caught up on Jada and what she's saying, even though she has a talk show and the platform to do it. Will Smith is doing the same thing, except he's trying to sell a book, right? Not only that, Will Smith is the one who put out that they had an open marriage, right? So
Mhm.
when she talks about her end of the open marriage, even though she never put it in those terms, she never let those words out. Everybody was dragging her, right? Even
Okay.
though she had to have come up with this shit with somebody,
Mhm. Okay.
right? So it's not a matter of why is he allowing her to say all of this, because I don't think he's really allowing her to say anything. She's speaking her
He's
truth, and
not.
I think he understands that, right?
He's not allowing her to say.
But she's talking about her experience as it pertains to her life, which I think is fine. But nobody has
Mhm.
those same words for Will Smith, and everybody's like, she's doing him dirty, she's dragging him, and I need somebody to make that make sense to me.
Why she can't do it, but he can?
No, why everybody thinks that she's dragging Will Smith through the mud. I need somebody to make that make sense to me. Because if he can go on Oprah and say how he wanted to take down as many women as possible, even though he was married, and everybody's just like, right? But then Jada has an entanglement, and she's talking about, you know what I'm saying, the ways that, and really all she's talking about are things that are true, which is that, you know, she can't expect somebody else to make her happy. And for the bulk of their marriage, she depended on him to make her happy, and that's impossible. And I think that's
Okay.
something that people need to learn. You can't no other person make you happy if you're not happy. That's an internal thing. And I
Right,
think the
and
bulk of
yeah.
the things she says stems from that place. Will is dope, but he can't make nobody happy
Yeah, that's true.
if
I
that's not
agree.
where they want to be.
Mhm. Now, here's what Imma say. Standard.
Huh?
That's it. It's a double.
That's all it is. It,
That's
it
it.
is.
It's
It
really a
is. It
double
is. It is.
standard. It's really a double standard, and we all know that double standards are not fair, but they're acceptable when they benefit the person.
Agreed. That's a fact.
So at the end of the day,
That's a
this is
fact.
another double standard that is what it is. Women don't I can't say that. Women aren't necessarily in society allowed the freedom to talk about their sexuality because it's taboo,
Mm-hmm.
even though men
Mm-hmm.
are, right?
Because what did she
But
say? She said something that got a lot of backlash, that Will Smith, that it took a long time for them to learn how to have good sex or something, or how to please one another
yeah,
sexually. I don't
yeah,
know.
uh-huh.
I don't, something
Mhm.
along those lines, right?
Yeah, she had that the interview with what's her face, that one girl, the white girl, what's that girl? That blonde hair girl
The white
from
girl.
Iron Man.
Oh,
What's
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow, and they were kind of hinting and talking about that, how she didn't know how to. In so many words, she didn't really know. She couldn't read his mind on how to please him and stuff, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna be honest, it's as
Is
fucking
that not,
simple.
hold on, pause. You being the married man can speak to this. Is that even not a common sexual occurrence though among married people?
What is exactly like?
Adjusting to the other's like sexual desire, right? Like you have to know, like nobody's born
Yeah,
knowing what that is,
well,
right? Like you
it's like
have to learn it.
you're taught that when you get married, you should be able to do as much as you want, and that's how it is, and they should get on board. And it's not necessarily the truth. With women, is so much more complex than that. It's not as easy as just like I can be in the mood 24/7. My wife isn't. Doesn't mean that it's wrong if she's not in the mood, or I'm wrong because I'm always in the mood. You have to find
Right.
your balance between your relationship with your partner, because
But it's
everybody
a
is a
learning.
little different, but you learn as you go. And if it's not compatible, you just decide you leave. I mean, that's really the two options: either stay and deal with it or leave. It's
Hmm.
really that simple. If it's not
So
easy,
then
but
she
it's a
said
simple
that, and
answer.
everybody was like, she needs to be quiet, even though she just articulated what you articulated, which is
But
like it's a
she's
learning curve.
embarrassing her husband, who is
How?
who is not only the person who's providing for her, not like literally financially, like I mean like literally, but creating the
What's
lifestyle that she
embarrassing
wants.
about that? So do you think that you just
Okay.
embarrassed your wife by what you just said?
No, because I was out here having entanglements and shit.
Okay, right? Like that's the thing. Will Smith said they had
And,
an open
and,
marriage and he wanted to fuck all the bitches. Excuse my
and,
language. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have
but
said it like
but
that.
also didn't I didn't put I didn't put any information. I didn't say that she was like this. I said in these situations it would be like this, and this is what you would do. I didn't say that my wife is like this, and I'm like this, and I'm pissed. She's it wasn't like that. It was just giving an
Is
elaboration. But
is that how Jada presented the information? Like
well, no,
Will is
she
stiff,
no.
and I'm, you know what I'm saying, and I'm fluid. Like I don't think she, I
Well,
don't think she
it
put it
it
out like
really
that. Like
it really just started because it really started mainly with August.
Because she had an entanglement with August.
Because what happened was when that story came out, because of August, she had to
Because of August, by the way.
she tried to do
Okay.
damage control, and then she tried to like run away from the question, and you have the husband forcing you to say what really happened, which makes him look even worse because now he's making you try to not run away. You're trying to run away, and now your husband's sitting on the side trying to make you deal with the shit that you had got came out.
So this is about August because one of Jada's hoes, even though we now know that they were in an open marriage, so because one of Jada hoes like got, I don't know, a conscience, some feelings, and said something, and none of Will's hoes said anything.
Well, he must have vetted them better than she vetted them. Because I haven't heard nobody say shit.
Touche.
I never heard no women come out about Will Smith, but I definitely heard about
so this is not because they both had hoes. This is because her hoe said something.
It started. Now, if you would have kept it on the wraps, hey, shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad. I need clarity. I'm glad we on the same page.
Okay, hold on. We gotta read these comments. Hold on. Kayla says they have enough money to have an open relationship. True. And
what
then
does money have to do with them having an open relationship?
Let's see. But I think it's true. Like when you think about it, when you have so much money, don't really
broke people got side pieces too. I don't want to hear that.
This is about side hoes wanting to be first place. I guess August was trying
that
to take
was August. August got a case of the first place. Yeah, he got first place.
No, because you think about it, because like, and this is what I would mean. I think when she's trying to say this comment, like people, no,
people have jobs you can't be having sex all the time. Listen, there are some very successful broke people who have side pieces, okay, and they are successfully keeping their side pieces happy and maintained. And that's, I don't know how they're doing it.
That's under the impression that the side pieces know they're side pieces, and the main dish knows that they're side pieces. Now it's a different story. If you broke,
I feel like I
don't know if you have as much. You know what I'm saying, but
listen, I feel like if you're a side piece, you know. I feel like side pieces know their side pieces. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not, you know, a man giving equal attention to two women, right? Meaning like he has two different families and two different wives, right? This is a man who's given like 80% to his wife and 20% to the side piece. So I feel like side pieces know their side pieces. I'm just going
to which there could be some truth. I don't know. I've never been a side piece to know. I've never had a side piece to know. So I don't know. I mean, it's a good point.
Ooh,
but that does make sense because think about it. You can only meet at certain places at certain times, you know, because you have a lot of stuff going on. But I noticed this though, and it's more. I guess it's more good. The men that have more money that have things that women would want generally have more options to choose multiple women. So I think when she's talking about like they're not necessarily need each other to survive. Will Smith can go on his own and do his own thing and so key. But they're also like, well, do we want to just split all this up? We're better together, but you don't satisfy me sexually. And it's like, well, let's go have other partners and we'll still be together. And that even happened with Bill Gates. No, not Bill. Was it Bill Gates? Yeah, he had the side woman for years, and then him and his wife just broke up, I think, last year or something.
But then his wife got mad, even though apparently she knew about the side piece this whole time.
Well, in the words
wife was like, well, he's been sleeping with her for 30 years.
Well, and this ain't Popeyes. This ain't Popeyes. It ain't Popeyes. And then it says, so it takes money to have an open marriage. No, it doesn't necessarily take money to have an open marriage.
I don't think so, Kenny. Broke people do it all the time.
It makes it easier. I mean, I've met people.
Except some broke people don't know they're in an open marriage. That's the problem. People be in open marriages all the time and don't know.
Well, I know. I've
have the slightest idea.
Talked to somebody before, and I didn't even know. They're asking me questions about like open relationships. I didn't even know why they're asking. It's like, why are they asking me this question? They're kind of asking this. I think they're probing to see what I would think about it. And I'm just like, oh, like that's weird. Like what's weird about it? And I'm like, I don't know, just trying to share your partner. That'd be kind of weird. Like, I don't know. This is not for me personally. And then they're like, well, it's not like that necessarily. It's just like, you guys both agreed to the partner and other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. And they weren't making no money. They weren't making no money. So yeah, true. Some people are really into that stuff. But for me, hell nah. That ain't never gonna happen.
Hell no.
I ain't never sharing. Fuck that. That's just me though. That's just me. So yeah, that's what I think about the whole Will and Jada thing. I think it's just, I still feel Jay need to shut your
Let
mouth,
it
damn it.
go.
Shut your mouth, damn it. Just come
Listen,
on, stop.
listen. If
Stop.
Will
But
Smith is not embarrassing her, then I don't think she's embarrassing Will
you
Smith.
can't you can't embarrass Jada because of Will Smith is too legendary to embarrass his
I
wife.
mean, I would make the
He can,
argument that the
he can
things
sit
that
through
they,
30 women and they all came out and said so, and it wouldn't embarrass her.
I
They're gonna
would
be
make,
like, that's Will Smith. It's
I
Will
would make,
fucking Smith. They're not gonna be like, it's Jada. And like no one gives a fuck. It ain't
I
Will
would make the
Smith.
argument that Jada added a lot of star power to Will when they got married.
Okay, yeah.
I would also add that I believe their production company, which does all of the movies that we love,
Uh-huh.
includes her. They built that together.
Right.
And I would also say that Jada had a great career in the 90s pre Will Smith. Granted, Will Smith was a box office superstar,
For
but
for the
you
whole
know,
time, like from like 1999 till now.
and I do agree that Will Smith is a box office superstar before they got married. However, I do believe that Jada added a lot of star power to him.
Which I can agree with
Because
that. That's
she's
probably
young, she's
true.
cute, she's an actor too. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Like they got these
they have
cute
the black
ass kids running
relationship. Yeah,
around. Like
I mean, real talk. Yeah, I'm not saying she didn't add anything to him, but all I'm saying is when you look at the two, there's significant
it's
differences.
Will fucking Smith. Wasn't that what you just said?
It's Will fucking Smith, man. What do you mean? Like this is fucking Will Smith. I'm not gonna lie. I'm biased to Will Smith. That's my look. I grew up watching Will Smith. Of course, I'm gonna be on his side. I don't care. I
Like,
don't care.
I grew up watching Jada. Now what?
And where did she go for the last 15 years?
That's what I'm
That's what
saying.
I'm
Like, it
saying.
doesn't matter.
That's
It
what I'm
doesn't matter.
saying. Hey,
they're
y'all go ahead.
both
Make sure I
they're
hit that
both
like button too.
equally fly. I
Not
think
equal,
they're
just
both equally fly. I'll say
I
that.
mean, they're flying their own rights, but I definitely don't think they're equal.
Like
I think
their
definitely
flyness matches each other. You know what I'm saying? They're on the same level of fly.
okay. Then okay. That's your opinion. I respect it. I don't agree, but that's okay. That's cool though. I mean, hey,
Well,
I
we'll just
but
have to agree to
I
disagree.
will say I agree with you. She did bring some or enhance his career in a better light. It kind of like the
Okay.
same thing with Kanye and Kim Kardashian. He kind of went really mega once he married her, and then it kind of went like really skyrocketed far with like all the money and the outfits and everything. Kind of took him on a whole another level because they have like what like five sisters, the Dash stores, Kardashian, all that stuff with his name
I
all
should have
elevated
known that you
together.
would find a way to
But
bring Kanye West into this conversation. Like,
that
how?
was just for a quick second. I wasn't even going to talk about it. I was just saying the similarities and like a man marrying a woman and it enhances his name the same way Jaden Will did.
It's about equal levels of fly. I'll say that, right? Like, we have to match each other's
Jaden
drive, if you will.
lyric. Hey, wasn't the movie with the black dude and didn't he kill the girl or something? Oh my gosh, that was a really sad movie. I don't remember, but that shit was sad, sad. I think I cried.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, well, I can't remember the movie, but I remember part of it. He was a bald dude.
Yeah,
Uh,
she was in
oh, she was
so
in that
listen,
movie.
my favorite Jada movie, um, y'all probably gonna laugh at me, but it's a low down dirty shame with Keenan Ivory Wayans.
I seen a
I
long time
fucking
ago.
love that movie.
Long
That's
time
my
ago.
shit. I think that movie is hilarious. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And Her Time on a Different World,
Okay.
but specifically
So all like
Low Down
90s
Dirty
and
Shame.
early 2000s stuff is what you're talking about.
I don't care. Low Down Dirty Shame is hilarious. I don't care how old it is. It's so funny to me.
Okay.
It's freaking hilarious.
Word. I respect it.
Everybody go watch the movie and then talk to me about it in the comments. Okay? It's hilarious. It's
and
funny.
make sure you type in at Chantelli and then write so they know who they're talking.
Don't you dare. Right? Then we can't even have
she was in Nutty
a
Professor.
great
Huh?
conversation.
She was in
Anyway,
Nutty Professor. She was.
she was in the first Nutty Professor, but she was just like, was she Miss Carla?
She was a side piece character.
She wasn't the side piece. He was in love with her.
Oh, that was her.
He was in love.
That
Like,
was
wasn't
her. That's right.
Miss Purdy?
That's right.
What do you call her, Miss Purdy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Good job, Kayla. Good job. Dang, there's something else I wanted to talk about. I forgot. We were discussing it earlier.
Oh, like Jada got movies, bro. She did Set It Off and she shut that down.
She did.
That's
I'm not
what
gonna
really
set off was
catapulted
that
her.
was her movie. Set It Off to this day was her movie.
But
That
is
was
it better than a
awesome.
Low Down Dirty Shame? I don't know.
Well, it's two different, you can't compare the two. It's like apples and oranges. Like, you know what I mean?
Probably.
That's like
Um,
yeah, you can't compare this. This too hard. It's like, that's like comparing like Terminator 2 to like Doctor Doolittle. It's like two different genres of movies.
is it like that though?
Well, yeah, one's like
Probably. You're
action
right.
and one's like
It
comedy. Like,
is.
it's like,
Okay.
if you're a funny guy, then obviously Low Down Dirty Shame is gonna be better. If you're action guy, then Set It Off. But okay, we got Set It Off as a classic. Agreed, it was. That's why I really remember her as, honestly. Her and
So
Queen
was Low
Latifah.
Down Dirty Shame. Put some respect on it.
But I do remember more of Set It Off because they were all G's. There's a bunch of women robbing up banks and stuff there. And then Queen, that was tight when they do out the tape. It was cool. It was a good movie. Good movie. Not gonna lie. There was something else I wanted to talk about and I forgot. We were discussing. We're talking earlier before we got on the podcast about the marriage thing in that podcast. There's a podcast called, I think it's called Deadass. Is it
Yeah,
called
the
Deadass?
Deadass podcast with Kadeen and
Uh,
DeVal.
yeah, yeah. And so in the podcast, let me pull up the name of it so you guys can actually go look it up. It's on Spotify. It's called
Super
You Don't
great
Have to Be.
podcast.
Yeah, it's called You Don't Have to Be Superman. You Don't Have to Be a Superman with Kevin Walton and Trinity something. It's on the Deadass podcast right here. I don't know if you guys see that.
Super good podcast. I follow both of them, and like as far as like a young married couple, I don't listen to some of the stuff just because some of it doesn't apply to me, not being a young married couple with kids. But I just think that the way that they view marriage is beautiful, and specifically, I don't know. I just think it's a beautiful Black family. You know, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. I have
Um,
a lot of respect for them too. I've followed them for a minute. Yeah, I like them a lot. And
so what
he,
was your question?
he said he was so in the podcast he's talking about you don't got to be Superman all the time, and he's pretty much talking about how like as a husband and as a man, when you become married, you like want to please your wife and do all these things for her because like this is what she needs. Like she needs help
Mhm.
with this or that, and you just do it without really question or hesitation. You just kind of like even if you don't want to do it, you just do it because it needs to be done. And
Mhm.
then they start explaining the fact how, but he feels mad because when he asks his wife to do something, she'll roll her eyes and have attitude about something. And it kind of will
Mhm.
repeat the cycle of him wanting to be petty and be like, you don't want to help me, so I'm not going to fucking help you do this shit. But then
Right.
he'll feel bad because she really needs the help and then he'll help her. And then when he asks for help, then she'll do the same thing and it repeats the cycle over and over again. And it was interesting because um, as guys, I think we feel like that. I feel like we offer a lot and we take out of ourselves a lot out of stuff, try to be selfless. And then when you ask for something, it doesn't get it. It makes you really mad because you feel like you're compromising so much more than somebody else. And so you would be frustrated, like when you ask
Mhm.
for one thing simple and you get like backlash or you get the attitude or you get the very well knowing like I don't want the very obvious I don't want to do this. Even though if you don't want to do it, you don't make it obvious, you just do it. But then they don't give you that same in return. So then he was talking about how it's frustrating because of that, because you give all this and when you ask for something small or something you need, is met with attitude and you never really have the break. Like, I can't just stop being the man in a relationship and, let me just take off for 5 months. He's made a
Right.
statement. He's like, I don't have the luxury. Or his wife was saying, sometimes I just want to break from the kids and like life and work and stuff and just take off. And he was like, that's fine. You can do that. But there's no way I can say to my wife, here, I'm going to take off for 5 months. You just take over the bills and everything. So I need a break. Like,
Right.
we don't
Right.
get
Right.
that
Right. Right.
luxury
Right.
or that option. And so it's very one-sided. And so he was saying how if he feels like it's not fair because of the fact that I don't even get to take breaks and all I'm asking to do is a simple one thing or two thing, and you meet with opposition and attitude, even though I help you all the time with no opposition or attitude, and I don't get breaks. So that was what the
Yeah.
conversation was about. I didn't finish the whole thing, but I thought it was really interesting because you don't really hear men talk about this particular thing in a relationship, at least that I've heard.
Yeah.
The way he broke it down and being vulnerable about it, I don't really hear that conversation. Um, and I don't really hear the conversation like that. But what I will say about it is, um, one, it's hard to be vulnerable, and two, I can understand the frustration of because you feel like you're giving so much more, and you're looking at it from your lens, like I'm giving all of this of no problem, and they're just meeting me with this like this energy of like you don't feel like doing it or you don't want to do it, and you're frustrated because we're looking at it just as like the data. You know, you need this done, I'll do it. That's it. Let's just go. And then it's like, if I need this done and you don't feel like doing it, I met with the emotions about why you don't want to do it. And therefore, I don't want to ask you to do it. And now I feel neglected because I can't ask you without it being a problem, even though I can give you the same thing when you ask me with no energy to match that. I don't want to do it. And that's like the point he was making was like, it's just for him, it felt like it wasn't fair. But we also have to understand that like we are wired differently between men and women, that we look at it logically, like A plus B is C. But with women, it's more of a, you have to acknowledge the emotions about what they're feeling more than just the say you're sorry and it's done. Like I can mess up with my wife or do something stupid and I can be like, well, I'm sorry. And I owned it and that's it. And I'm in my head, I'm done. But if she doesn't feel like I'm really concerned, it doesn't really mean anything if the feeling isn't there like I really meant it. But in my head, if I say I'm sorry, I acknowledge that I did was wrong and it's wrong. That's it. All right, cool, move on. So that's the kind of stuff he was elaborating on, which I thought was very interesting. What were your thoughts about it?
I think it's interesting because your takeaway was one of the takeaways I had. So I
Okay.
have to preface this conversation, and we'll make a loop back to it. But I saw King Richard today,
Okay, for
and
sure. I saw a
it
little bit
was
of
making me feel some type of way. Like I saw King Richard today, and I left the theater like feeling some type of way about Black men in general and Black fathers, and
yeah,
you
okay.
know how lovely, and godly I think they are, right? So then
100%.
I listen to this podcast often, and Spotify, like you get in the car and like it comes on, it plays like the newest thing will just automatically pop up. So this is what that
Right.
episode is what came on when I was out, left the movies. And what you brought up is actually something that really made me be like, dang. And what the man said, he was like, there are some, and there was a man on there talking about masculine and feminine energies
Right,
and
yeah. Yeah.
how people operate in both of them, right? Like if you're a man and a woman, you'll operate in masculine and feminine energies, but you'll own the masculine one. Same thing with women, right?
Right.
Like there are moments where you'll operate in a quote unquote masculine energy, but you own the feminine one, right? Like that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
your embodiment. That's who you are. And one thing that he said, which was really beautiful, not really beautiful, but what he said was, he's like, there are certain things that a woman goes through that a man is not designed to understand, right? He's not designed to
Mhm.
understand, and he's not designed to carry that with you, right? And he's talking about more social emotional stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily physical stuff, right? Like we know
Mhm.
women can have babies and men can't help with that,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And he said the opposite of that is true for men, right? He said there are some things, some emotional, social things, mental things that men go through that women are not designed to understand, right? They
right,
can't
right.
help you with that.
Mhm.
They can't hold that, you know what I mean, as much as they may want to. And when I heard that, for the men, I instantly just felt bad, right? Like I felt hurt a little bit. And the reason why is because exactly what you touched on. Even though there are certain things that I go through that a man or my partner will never really understand or be able to help me with, I have a community of women, right, and friends that
Mhm.
I can talk about these things with, right? And
Mhm.
they're going to be able to help me, put me up on game. Like women have a different kind of social circle that involves around talking about emotions and being vulnerable and things like that, right? So it's
Right.
women easier for women to do that. But when he said that for men, it just made me sad because those spaces aren't necessarily available for men all the time, right? Like some
Mhm.
men don't have those spaces. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
there are things that they have to carry that, the closest person to them who might be their wife can't is not designed to help them hold or understand. They just can't do it. Right.
Yeah.
So then a lot of time men have these things that they just have to hold on to.
Mhm.
And they can't express, they can't share that with anybody. They can't share that load, that burden. And it's like you said, he can't be like, all right, well, I'm just not going to pay the bills for 3 months. You know what I mean? Because I need
Yeah.
time to myself. Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's never that option. And I instantly like just really, really, really felt bad and like an immense amount of love and gratitude for the men who are standing in there with their family and their children, especially Black men. And again, I saw King Richard, so I was all in my feelings.
Mhm.
But it just really I just really thought about that. And I wonder how many women actually think about that. You know what I mean? Like there are just
Yeah.
certain things that, and some women are like, put that on me, like let me carry it. And for the most part, women I know would be like, I don't want my man, my husband, my mate to carry all of that stuff. I want him to put some of that stuff on me. But
Mhm.
what we don't understand is that he can't. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
not designed, and we can't, there's nothing we can do you know what I'm saying? All we
Yeah,
can do is have compassion for what it is that he's carrying, right? What
right,
it is
right.
that he's carrying. We have to have compassion for that.
But and there's
Um,
something you I'm glad you brought the whole scenario because like with men and like talking about your emotions, one thing that I guess I've heard men talk about and find it like hard, and the reason why it's hard to open up to women or to your woman is because once you say something, it's almost like if you say a certain thing, they may lose respect for you. Even if they're saying, I want you to tell me all the problems. I want you to really tell me what you're going through. But they really don't want you to tell them what you're really going through. It's like when
yeah.
you think if you think about it, yeah, you want to hear it, you really want to hear it. Do you really want to hear all the shit that I'm really dealing with? But I
Hmm.
don't even think you can really handle what I'm about to tell you, number 1. And number
Right.
2, you might judge me for it later. Or number
Yeah.
3, you might throw it in my face if you're mad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't have the luxury of telling you because even if I want to, I know that you may use this to throw it in my face later because of an emotion
Mhm.
or a feeling. So I can't. And therefore I'm
Yeah.
stuck if I don't have any friends. And even as guys too, we're now finally starting to get to the place that we can actually have more dialogue about our feelings. But when I was
Right.
growing up, you didn't talk about your feelings. You just don't
Yeah.
talk about it. It just
Yeah.
suck it up and deal with it. That's what we learned as guys with each other, and we can't talk to them about it because you're a bitch or oh you weak,
Right. 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 Right.
or man up. So then there's no outlet. So now you're just stuck. And if you tell your woman and she throws you in your face, now it's like I'm never gonna trust you to tell you anything because the moment it happens once, I can never tell you anything else personal like that. And so I think that's where
Mm.
and on top of we have to understand that even as as husbands and wives, just because we're husbands and wives doesn't mean that we have to be everything for our partner. Like that's why
Right.
we
Because you can't
have
be.
friends. You have friends, you
Yeah.
have different people in your life for different reasons. Now, like, my wife is my partner, but I also have other friends who I talk about, really deep intellectual stuff because like we just have a different type of friendship. Like we can
Hmm.
go farther and different things because it's the way our minds work compared to me and my wife. We're not going to talk as deep. So we do talk deep, don't get me wrong. We actually talk pretty deep. But there's certain conversations we're just not going to have because I'm not going to listen to her talk about her girlfriend show. Like I don't care. It's not don't care.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I just don't care about what's happening to the people. And vice versa. She's not going to want to hear me talking about some random thing I learned about math and equations of electricity that my friend might want to know.
Right.
So we got to get rid of this thing that like your partner has to be everything because I think that's where we go wrong when you're talking about a partner. Partner is not supposed to be everything for you. It's impossible for someone to meet every one of your needs. It's literally impossible. Like you can't
Agreed.
be that means like that's like saying you only have one friend in the world and that's the only
Yeah.
person you're ever gonna talk to. Like
Yeah.
that's not even realistic. But what I think
Yeah.
in marriage, the kind of thing is like you think like, oh, we're partners, we're supposed to be everything to each other. And it's like you can't be. And if you do that as a man, you may lose respect. So and that's where another issue comes up. But yeah, go ahead.
One thing I really, what I'll say about listening to this particular couple, I like listening to them
Me
because
too.
they were the first married couple I heard introduce a concept of like to be in service to your spouse, right? Like
Yeah.
not just the wife being in service to her husband, but vice versa.
Right.
And that's both of them waking up thinking about what is it that I can do to serve my spouse today.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that that is a concept that I never heard before, but to hear them both talk about it, I think is really really dope. Because when you consider it like that, then it's not like a matter of you know, um, women being like I can't submit to no man or be like that's a hard concept for a lot of women to swallow because for whatever reason I don't know. But because it is, you never really consider how easy it would be for a woman to submit to her husband when she knows that her husband is going to do what's in his power to help serve her. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
then that's an easier, I don't know, I think it's an easier pill to swallow. Anyway, I just
Real quick though, I
but
think when you said the thing about submission, I do want to say something because I've heard this and I've heard that thing where like it is, I've heard women have like a hard time dealing with that. And I
mhm,
think this was the best explanation I heard that submission is just, um, what was the term? Another word for submission is just respectful cooperation. It doesn't mean you have to grovel down and do exactly what I say
Right,
all
right,
the time,
right, right.
or be like, yes, yes, sir, I'm gonna do it right now. It's not like that. I think that that's the idea that people get. I don't know for sure. My elaboration, I'm not a woman, but I think that's the theme that I've heard people say is like, I don't want to bow down to a man, but it's not about bowing down. It's just respectfully
Yeah,
cooperating with the mission that he's taken you on, that you agreed to sign up for him to lead. So like I think,
agree.
but yeah, but anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off so long, but I just want to say that.
No, it's all good. I think that's an excellent point, and I think that specifically this podcast from the men's perspective was really really good too,
Mm,
because again, like there aren't those spaces where you are you're able to to really just not carry everything, right? And I think
yeah.
that's the biggest thing I got out of it. But the reason, and then the second thing was the reason why the podcast is named, men don't have to be Superman, is because the other dude that was on there was saying, um, I picked the perfect partner for me, right? And
Mm,
because of that, I don't have to be Superman, right? Because I
mm,
know that she's going to have my back and hold me down in a way that allows me to essentially just be me, right? It's
mhm,
not being Superman because of the way that my woman loves me. I'm able to just go out and do these
mhm,
amazing things, and I'm going to continue to try when I fall short, and she's going to do the same thing, right? So I don't necessarily have to be Superman because these
mm.
things that I'm going to do aren't superhuman, they're just in me, right? And it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
matter of like what a man is able to produce, right?
Mhm,
um, when he feels that from his spouse, and the way that a spouse is able to
mhm.
hold him down, so to speak, for lack of a better term. It's so commonly used.
And it's
um,
crazy. It's crazy too because women do have a lot of power in a relationship. Like if you really know how to encourage your man, they're gonna do so much more for you. If if a lot of women understood that if they really operated in their feminine, if they have a really masculine guy and they
mhm,
operate really in their femininity, they
mhm,
have a lot of power in the situation that they're just not aware of.
mhm,
But you can't really. It's like, and I there was one thing they said too that in every relationship, like there's obviously one person who's more masculine, one who's more feminine, but it doesn't mean that you're only masculine and they're only feminine. You kind of go in ebbs and flows of stuff. Like there's times where you kind of have to be a little more nurturing as the father, and there's time their woman needs to be a little more assertive at times. And I thought that
mhm,
was a very interesting point because I think a lot of times we hear in media that alpha male and masculinity and
mhm.
toxic masculinity and all this stuff, and it's not just you're just masculine and that's it. Like we still got
Yes.
emotions too, just as we're other
Mhm,
people, just like
mhm,
you guys. And there's times where
mhm.
women can take that stance, but it's just you got to find the balance of your partner.
Yes.
Um, and I don't think there's one way that's really going to fit for everybody. You just got to
Mhm,
find if you're a more feminine guy, then you might, and if you're okay with that, then you probably
mhm.
might need a more masculine woman, and vice versa. Um,
That sounds weird to say,
yeah.
but it was just what he said. The way he broke down the masculine and feminine energies was something that I was intrigued by. Again,
Hmm.
just listening to it, because what he said, he's like the masculine space is like logic, steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Reasoning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
A,
Real
B, C.
logical. Yeah. Yeah. Trust me.
Ordered
Trust
thinking,
me.
right? So that's the masculine presence. Whereas for women, it's more of like a feeling, emotional,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Where I
Yeah.
feel this
For
way,
sure.
my emotions this way, right? So those are like the common traits. Not
Mhm.
all of the traits, right? But one that stands out,
Yeah.
that he was saying, and to say that a woman never, but to say that doesn't say that a woman is never logical and doesn't go from point A, B, C, D, or think reason, you know what I mean, or think
Yeah. Yeah.
logically,
Hmm.
right? And to say that a man feels, you know what I mean, or has emotions and things like that, like it's not to say that men don't feel and have emotions and
Right.
things like
Right.
that, right? It just means that we operate from a different space and we own that different space, right? And
Yeah.
that, if a man is in his emotions or feeling right, that doesn't make him feminine. It means he's accessing a part of him, just like the same way that women are accessing a part of them when they're accessing, you know what I mean, when they want to be
Yeah.
led
For
by
sure.
logic and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where a big miscommunication happens because there's a lot of men who sorry, a lot of men who are thinking more
Men's.
logical. I know there's a lot of men who are thinking logical about a situation, and this I've seen this happen. It's happened to me. I've seen it happen. Like I'll be talking about something, or me and my wife would discuss something, and she's telling me all this stuff about how she feels about something, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's just X, Y, and Z. That's it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I don't like that's it. To me, like it's over. Like you understand here, A, B, C. You told me
Hmm.
the story and it's A, B, and C. That's it. All right. But she doesn't see it as A, B, and C. She sees it with her emotions. And so sometimes you have to be able to tap into your emotional side to see, like, even though
Hmm.
logically it's just A, B, and C, like you have
Hmm.
to understand where they're coming from to be able to present this and not just an A, B, and C. Like you got to understand, like, I get how you're feeling. I can see where you came from and why you feel this way. Because
Hmm.
validating your feelings is really important, especially for women.
Hmm.
Like you guys have so many emotions that, and they're much more stronger than like men normally have in general. I'm speaking in general terms, not saying all the time. But like those emotions are so much stronger than a man's would be in the same scenario. And us men were like, well, just it's this and that's it. And they're like, well, you don't understand. You don't understand how I feel. And like, so now that's the conversation is you're speaking two different languages about the same situation.
Right.
And as a
Yeah.
husband, you got to learn how to speak their language. And as a wife, you have to know when to speak my language. Because sometimes I
Yes.
don't want to hear your whole story
Vice
about how
versa.
you felt. If I
Yeah.
say, this happens all the time, I'm like, Kayla, did you get this? She'll be like, well, I was driving down and, I was driving on the freeway and this crazy guy was driving on the side of the road. I'm like, Kayla, did you get it or not? Well, hold on. But yes, I was driving. I was tripping. And then she's telling me all stuff. I'm like, just tell me, did you get it or not? Well, I need to know first. And I'm like getting
It's
mad.
the
Trying to
process.
tell me,
I'm gonna tell you, but
yeah.
you need to hear me
It's,
first.
it's like it's like what's 2 plus 2? Is it 4? Well, let me think. When you have two numbers over here and you think about
Yes,
two,
but
bro, tell
that's
me.
not what I want to talk about.
But then at times I'll be like, I'll say something and then be like, yeah, it's this. And then she's like, I don't even understand. And I have to like go through and explain stuff. And I'm like, so we have to learn how to communicate better. And we have to learn how to communicate to our partners the way
Yes.
they are
Yes.
listening, the way
And
they
that
who
requires both parties to tap into something. You know what I mean? To tap
yeah,
into, what may not come as naturally to them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
In some instances, who knows? For men, for some women, maybe it does come naturally, right? But it
yeah, yeah.
requires a shift in the way that we may transmit information.
Yeah, for sure. And as
So,
long as you have the same kind of goals and you both understand each other, as long as you guys are on the same page, it's going to be a lot easier. You just got to be willing to be empathetic and understand. Like, I may not want to hear the whole story all the time. Sometimes I got to tell, like, don't tell me anything else. Just what this answer. So tell me. I'm like, all right,
mhm,
tell me everything else. And other times I need to get the whole story. And so like it's just the way. There's times that she can tell me and I can take it, and there's other times I like I can't. I gotta just know what it is.
don't want
But I have
to.
but I have to sit there and check myself when she has to explain it. I gotta check myself, and it's like, okay, I can't be just so straightforward. I gotta like hear. I gotta see what's going on with her. I can't just give me the answer. Like your feelings are important too. So I think as men, I think that might be a struggle sometimes is trying to, weed through the emotions to get to the answer. And I think women have a
Mhm.
hard time. Some women have a hard time like getting to the answer about having because their emotions are involved. And so I think that's where we miss communication at times, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, agree.
Huh?
100% agree. 100% agree. I think that's why it's so important, at least for me to like, um, that's why I like listening to stuff like that, right? Like, I like listening to, like, if it's an all men's podcast, like, people shy away. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
women would shy away from listening to that, right? But for me, like, I absolutely want to listen to it, right? And I think that
Yeah.
we should take that kind of approach when we want to think about learning one another, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
learn your spouse, learn
Yeah.
one another. I think it's important. I like to learn everything anyway. I just like
I,
to have information.
well, no, it's good. I think it's
Um,
needed. I have a question for you too. After you go, I have a question for you.
I was just gonna say that I saw King Richard today, and that movie made me believe that there might not be anything more powerful
Oh
in
yeah.
this world than a black father, or just a father in general, but
Hmm.
specifically because King Richard is about Venus and Serena's father.
Hmm.
Just a black father in general. That was freaking. I just don't think there's anything more powerful, right? And you look at, the way that he was criticized, similar to the way that we criticize LeVar Ball,
Yeah.
and the same
For
way that
being
we
about
talk
his
about
children.
Joe Jackson. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah,
like you
the way
got
he
them kids
treated
out
his
there
children.
practicing in the rain.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just because you don't understand what it is that he's doing doesn't mean that you have the right to criticize him. And his methodology worked, right? Like we can say
Yeah,
what we
obviously
want.
you see the evidence, after all the years. You've been seeing the
It's
evidence
just
of how good they are, you
if
know? But mhm.
you just got to watch a movie. If you haven't watched a movie, you have to watch it, right? Like the way that he took an interest in preserving their youth,
Yeah.
the way that he took an interest in preserving the way that they were viewed by the media, the things that they said. He was fiercely protective of them,
Mhm.
and uh, it's just a
It
beautiful.
was
It's a
dope to see.
beautiful film.
I
It's a
only watched a
beautiful
few
film.
pieces of it. I kinda I was doing I think I was working doing other stuff, but I kinda caught a few I got the ending and, like, maybe, like, the last 30 minutes of the movie and a couple pieces in between, but I did like the fact of seeing, like, I think what I admired the most is seeing, like, a father that was strong and not willing to back down to nobody. Like, when I
Yeah,
see that, I respect that tremendously. Um, I just
it's
yeah, seeing him like that about his kids, and didn't matter who was telling him what, like, yo, like but, one
yes.
thing I thought was really cool in the moment when, uh, it was he went back in the house and him and his wife were getting in an argument, and she was like, I'm here because X, Y, and Z." And then
Hmm.
she was like, "And I know you're scared to look like a dumb nigga in
Yeah.
front of everybody."
Hmm.
And that shit almost had me tear up. That
Yeah.
almost had me and
Yeah.
I came in at that
Yeah.
part. I didn't really see everything before, but just hearing
Yeah.
that part, I was like, "Damn,
Man.
that's a good wife."
Man.
That's what I was like, "That's a
It's
good
just
wife." Like, that was hard to
it's
know
just
you still back your husband like that, even though you called out his vulnerability that he's struggling with, but you still like, "I never thought that about you." Like, I'm almost getting teary-eyed right now because like, I just to see somebody reverence their husband like that was like, dang, like, that's
I'm
that's
it
duty.
was just
That's duty.
man, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like it was beautiful. And then like again to talk about his wife at the time, like to have a woman that here's what it is that you're saying, and this sounds crazy. He
Mhm.
said he wrote a plan about their life before he was born, and it sounds like what LeVar Ball said about his sons. Right? I
Yeah,
told my wife when we got married, we having 3 boys, and they all gonna play in the NBA. Right? Like I wrote
yeah.
it before it happened.
He
Right?
knew.
And people, you know what I'm saying? But then to have a wife that's like to be able to follow that faith and say, you know what, you're right. We're gonna have two children. They're gonna be the best tennis stars ever, and then to follow that faith, to put it into action,
Mhm.
to sacrifice, you know what I mean, based on what it is that he saw,
Yeah,
and then the work that he put in to get his family there, the way that he protected those girls, he wanted to protect their youth. Like
yeah,
he kept them from competing. And
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
was like, "You're crazy. You can't do that." And just because like, you know what I mean, you have something that you want to do and other people don't have to see it, they don't have to respect it, they don't have to
mhm,
understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Because God
yeah,
gave him the vision. He didn't give it to them. So
yeah,
you have to
exactly.
follow it. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? It was
yeah,
just man, I'm telling you, I was in that theater with like tears in my eyes. I was shaking a little bit. I was like, it's just nothing more powerful on this earth, man, than a black father. There's nothing more powerful than that. There's nothing more powerful than that. It's
yeah,
nothing more powerful than that. And it was just, yo,
yeah, no,
shout out to y'all. Shout out to
yeah.
y'all.
'Cause
That's
I
all I got.
yeah, 'cause I came in on that moment when she was saying that, and I almost started crying 'cause I'm like, "Wow,
Watch.
like, that's."
Imagine if you watched the whole movie.
I know. When I started watching, I stopped everything I was doing, was kind of watching everything. Like, all right, I'm watching it now. But no, that
Shout
was
out
like
to y'all, man.
that was what I saw. I want to watch the whole thing, but it was a very good movie, and to see a black man and a father like be about his children regardless, and go against the grain and not fold under the pressure was like, man, I commend that
Yeah.
because it's hard. It's hard
It's
when the world is looking
absolute.
at you. It's hard when the world's
Absolutely.
looking at you like this, and you already have like a stigma placed on you by society. It's very
Yes.
hard to to not doubt yourself and then not feel like everybody around you is doubting you when the whole world's telling you what you're doing is wrong.
Yes. Yes.
And then, but to have that I seen
Yes.
his wife do that, I was like, man, that is a great wife.
Yes,
To
man.
still tell him the truth, but to still
Yes.
honor and uplift him, even
She
though
told
he's
him the
hurting.
truth.
And he was hurting. And that wasn't easy to take. I'm sorry. That wouldn't be easy for nobody to take.
No.
That's hard to take. That you messing
But
up in certain areas, but she was able to bring it awareness and uplift him and still make sure he was still
yo, she got
helping
her
his
point
children.
across. She
I was
got
like,
her point
"Oh,
across.
didn't
She
yell,
held him
nothing."
accountable. You know what I mean? She got her point
Yeah.
across. She held him accountable to what he wanted. And at the same time, she spoke life into that man, something serious.
Yeah.
And like, first of all, that's gotta be tough. That's first of all, that's probably hard as hell. But it's probably not. First of all, I take that
Yeah.
back. It's probably not when you look at, you know what I mean, the love that you just have, because all of that comes from love.
Yeah.
But then like people will try to convince you that they know you and they know what your family needs and they know what these kids needs better than you. You know what I
But you
mean?
weren't
And you
even there to
never
raise
let
them.
that
You don't even
happen.
yeah, you don't
You
even know
never
how to
let that
do it.
happen.
Mhm.
People will try to convince you that you are crazy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
When it's
They
like, you
will
don't see
try to
the bills that
convince
I
you
have.
that you're wrong. And it's like, nigga, these my kids.
Yeah, and just because you have mediocre dreams doesn't mean I gotta have them. Ain't that a word?
There was haters, man. It was haters. People was coming to the house calling DCFS on him.
Yeah.
Like this man,
That's
his wife
hard.
is working during the day, right?
Yeah.
He's working, he's teaching them tennis during the day while his wife is at work. And then he brings them home to go to work and work a graveyard shift and then
Yeah.
come back in the morning.
Mhm. That's real. That's real. And yeah, like I said, I saw that moment. I'm like, I'm sold already. Like, already great perform. Like, man. But
Bravo. Shout out to y'all too.
I do have a question before we go because we got to wrap it up in a second. And this is kind of a deep question. I remember you said on the last podcast or on a few podcasts, but you say like you're black first before anything, right? I think that's what you had
Mm-hmm.
said. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this question is for you, and the question is it
Oh
hard for
Lord.
you?
Where did
No, 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 no.
okay.
It's a good question. Is it hard for you to be vulnerable as a black woman?
Um yes and no. I think it's a question of not it's not question of is it hard to be vulnerable.
Mm,
At least for me, I think a better question is it hard to find spaces that honor and support that vulnerability? I
mm,
think that's a better question, right? Because I think people understand that there's power in being vulnerable. But I think
mhm,
that people, black women, shy away from it because they haven't had enough spaces where it was owned, honored, and celebrated.
mm,
And I think that's a bigger question, right? Because I don't think I have a problem with being vulnerable. I think I have a problem with choosing people, spaces,
mm.
supports to be vulnerable to, right?
Okay.
In all of my instances where I've had friendships or, different support systems and I was vulnerable in that, I never regretted the vulnerability per se.
Mhm.
I regretted who I allowed access to. I regretted who I gave access. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a better question, right? Is how hard is it to find those spaces? And the truth is, I think it's incredibly, I think it's hard to find those spaces.
Do you
I think it's hard to find those spaces.
now this leads to my next question, which is like, do you find it hard even if like do you find that same issue hard even with your dealing with other black women? That is it hard to open up to black women or women in general or particular friends you just were talking about before? Was it like were they was it like was it hard for you to be vulnerable to these people because of certain reasons, or like do you find it a little easier that people that are black or people that have this type of mindset, or what do you think from your perspective?
I'm not really sure I understand the question.
Um,
Um, yeah,
let
give it
me
to me differently.
when those times you felt when you from the times you felt like you opened up to the wrong people, what was the reason why you felt it was wrong to open up to those people? Like being vulnerable, because you said you
Gotcha.
picked the wrong kind of you picked
So
the wrong people in some sense. I would say
yes.
maybe that's what it was.
Hmm.
So what made it wrong?
Yeah.
Was it and have you found it different opening up to black people, or is it more of a people with certain mindsets is harder to open up with? Or is it
I
like a
think
white thing or something?
I don't think it's a white or black thing. I
Okay.
don't think that's a race thing. I
Okay.
think that um it's not I'll say it's not necessarily a white or black thing, right? But whenever it comes to being vulnerable, there's certain truths that are exposed, right? And those
Mhm.
truths are based on experience, right? So that's where it
Right.
becomes a white or black thing.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily think in this instance it's a white or black thing. I think it's more about a mindset. And
Okay.
what I mean by that is we are so conditioned, right? And I don't know if this is a white thing and a black thing, right? I don't know, right? Because I never grew up in a white house. But we are so conditioned in certain instincts that like some stuff is our business and we don't go around telling people our business. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
some stuff just stays in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's not our
yeah.
business. You You know
I
what I
don't
mean? That
think
whole
family
concept.
business out there. It's just for us
Yes.
to deal with. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes. And I
Got
think
you.
because of that, um, people are just more skeptical, right?
Yeah, yeah.
About what's our business and what is my truth to tell and lay before
Right,
people.
right.
The
Mhm.
reason why I say I made mistakes in that is because, and it's probably not even a mistake, but the truth is like whenever you are vulnerable with somebody in
Mhm.
any form, you have given a part of yourself to somebody,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like quite literally, you've given your part of yourself to somebody.
Mhm.
In any concept of vulnerability, whatever you want to say, whether that's telling somebody about your trauma, whether that's sex, whether that's intimacy, you know what I mean, in the form of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really getting to know somebody, whatever that is, you're literally giving a part of yourself to somebody.
Mhm.
And when you do that, you have to make sure that they are that their character is worthy enough to hold it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a
Mm.
character thing, right?
Mm.
Like, did I give myself to somebody who didn't prove to have sufficient character to hold it?
Right, right, right.
And I think
Yeah.
that that comes with more time
Mhm.
than I have been willing to give because I'm extremely impatient and I like to
Mhm.
rush processes.
Ah, I got
Um, and those kind of processes cannot be rushed.
you.
So,
Mm.
did you give a part of yourself to somebody with the character to hold it? And in some instances, I can clearly look back and say no, right? Like, no, I did
Yeah.
not. So, granted, the act of being vulnerable isn't wrong, right? That's not,
Right,
I don't think that's ever a wrong thing. But I do think that we have to be conscious of who we provide that kind of access to. And
right.
everybody, and we can love everybody. And just
Mhm.
because we love everybody doesn't mean that they get the same access to us. They don't get, that doesn't mean we have to treat them equally. You know what I mean?
Right,
Some
yeah,
people you'll
that's
pull
yeah.
closer to you, some people you want to keep at a distance. That doesn't mean that I love you any less. You
Right,
understand what I'm
right.
saying?
Because there's things I tell my wife I've never told anybody before. Like, there's
Right.
things, like, I've opened to her about stuff I haven't told a soul in this entire world except God. Like, that's the only person that knows, and my wife. And, it was hard at first because, like, it's scary to open up the door of something that, 1, you can't undo once you say it, you can't untake it.
Absolutely.
And number 2, like,
Absolutely.
you're giving away, like, the power that you have to control the situation,
Right.
like, to be able to protect yourself and all these, because, like,
Absolutely.
but I will
And once
say,
I give that to you, like I can't take it back and then glue it back on. You
yeah,
understand
oh,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
it's out now, like,
uh,
and, you
the
know
hole is still there, right?
yeah.
Whatever I pulled from to give you that hole is still there.
Right, right. And, like, and there's some things that some friends know and other friends don't know. It's not that, like, one is better than the other. We just have different
Hmm.
types of friendship, different type of relationships. And,
Absolutely.
and by looking at the person, I know there's certain things I can share with them and there's other things I can't share. Like, there's things that I
Absolutely.
know you want to, by talking to you, I know you won't understand this. So I don't need to open this up to you. And this person,
Exactly.
you understand this, so I can't open. But yeah, I was just very curious about that after listening to that podcast and stuff and was talking about the men and the issues. I was just really curious about um, how some black women felt about that as well. Like, is it the same way how we have a hard time being vulnerable and stuff and opening up sometimes?
Mhm.
I was curious if it was the same way for you guys. But yeah,
And
thank you for sharing. Yeah.
and let me say this, I think that the hesitancy to be vulnerable or to open up stems from what I just said,
Mhm.
right? The amount of times that you rush processes and were vulnerable with somebody who didn't prove themselves to have the character to hold or harness that.
Yeah.
But even with that, I'm just like, I don't want to turn it to a sermon or anything, but shout out to Jesus, who was
Amen.
really able.
Amen.
um no, seriously though, like shout out to Jesus who is really able, like once you allow him presence to room in your heart to operate the way that he'll keep it soft, right? And he
Yeah.
won't, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm thankful for, that I have a soft heart and I still love people. You know what I mean? I still want to give them the benefit of the doubt and I still want to, you know what I mean, open up
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. But just because that's there doesn't mean that I have to open up to everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Have
we
everything
still have a
normal. Yeah.
responsibility. Yes, we still have a responsibility to control our affections. You know what I mean?
Right.
And our
Right.
heart.
because not everybody
So,
needs your undesired, like unfiltered love. Like some people need just a snippet because
yep,
you don't need all that from me. Like I don't need to
yes.
give that to you. You're not that
Well,
you're
well,
not worthy,
not
but
love though, but not
you know what I'm
love though,
saying?
right? Because not love though, because God calls us to love everybody, right? So just because you love everybody doesn't mean that you give them the same things, right?
Yeah,
I
right,
love
right,
you
right.
all, so it means that I'm not going to um, treat
I
you worse than I would treat somebody else, right? But
right,
it
right.
doesn't mean that I don't get to place you in the
The same
appropriate spots,
category.
right?
Yeah.
And it
Like
doesn't mean that I
yeah,
have to put you in the same category, right?
yeah,
And I
'cause
think that's
yeah, yeah.
something that we have to understand.
Because like I love my mom, I love my wife, I love my daughter, but they all don't hear the same thing from me.
Exactly.
Like I love
Exactly.
them
That's a
all. I
perfect
love them
example.
all, but like
Right.
there's things I talk to my mom, there's things I talk to my wife, and there's things I talk to my daughter that
Right.
like there's things that
That's a great example.
my mom will understand about my wife will understand my daughter will understand about my wife. So it's just
Right.
I love them all, but
Hmm.
this is different for each one.
They get different parts of you, right? And the
Yeah,
places that you've put them, right, are
yeah,
congruent to, what they can handle and hold and
yeah,
things
yeah,
like that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So but yeah,
great
I
example.
yeah, so but yeah, I was just really curious about that, how you had felt and stuff. But I think it is a good thing to be vulnerable, and I think what you said is correct. Like it just depends on who you're sharing your vulnerability with, and are
Hmm.
they like I think you said it best. Are they able to hold what you're about to give?
Hmm.
Like, are they
Hmm.
picking up what you're laying down, and can they actually hold that? Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
you expose yourself to certain people, and they can turn around and throw it in your face and like throw you under the bus and like try to use it against you.
Right.
And it sucks, and that makes that hardened heart. But the good
Hmm.
thing is, uh,
Hmm. Shout out to Jesus.
won't be named among us. And number two, I'm gonna tell you, it don't matter how bad it gets. I don't care how bad it gets for me. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna change that because
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
refuse it, and it's not it's a choice. It's like even if I were to got hurt by somebody, like say my best friend just screwed me over or something, even if I get
Hmm.
hurt, I'm not gonna change that part of me because I feel like that's what the devil wants for me to not be open,
Absolutely.
and not be joyful, and not be careful of people, and I refuse to let that be. It doesn't matter. Like it's a choice for me, and
Because
I'm gonna die like that. I would
I feel
die.
like as humans, that's where our power lies, right? Which is why the enemy doesn't want to have that. Like our power lies in our vulnerability and
Hmm.
in our ability to
Yeah.
to relate to people, right?
Hmm.
Because most times we go through stuff, and I can't tell you how many times people feel like they're alone, nobody understands. um I can't explain it. You won't get it. There's no way out. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But it requires an act of vulnerability, really,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
love to be able to not just say I understand, but to tell you why. You
Yeah,
understand what I'm
yeah, like,
saying?
I've been through this,
Be-
so I can feel where you're
yes,
coming from, yeah.
yes,
And even though there's times where I might be not as empathetic to for a certain situation, I still understand where you're coming from, and it's just
yeah,
there's some times where I need to put my emotional hat on and feel for you, and there's times I need
hmm,
to take off my emotional hat and tell you the truth. I mean,
absolutely,
straightforward or raw,
absolutely,
but I
absolutely,
agree, and I think if we have more vulnerable people that are willing to share, and regardless of the consequences or regardless of how it may turn out, I think the more we're able to show that, the more we give power to that. Because
yeah,
the moment you stop sharing and you start
hmm,
cutting back and stepping back, the less likely people are going to be able to do that because
yes,
they don't have anybody willing to risk it the way we do. So
yes,
I think that's something
yes,
that's really important. That's one of my
yes,
core values. I'm going to die on,
yeah,
and that's just the way it's
yeah,
going to be. It don't matter.
yeah.
Anybody can tell me anything, but that's just the way it's going to be. I'm always going to be a caring person. It don't
And the
matter.
enemy thrives on those idiosyncrasies, right? The enemy thrives on those areas that you keep to yourself, that you keep in the dark, right? Because then
Hmm.
he's just able to play scenario after scenario about, you ain't shit, don't nobody
Yeah,
gonna
you
get it, you're work.
worthless, and
Yes,
you're just a
yes,
scum, and no one's
yes,
out there
yes.
like you. You're the worst of the worst, like,
It's
and no one
it's
gonna
it's in
relate
those
to
dark
that. Like,
places that we won't bring to light where the enemy is able to thrive, right?
yeah, and
Like,
that's what brings power out of it. That's where you get out of it is by bringing it to light. And I love
mhm,
you know, it's kind of like a weird scenario, but it does work in this scenario. Like if you ever seen the movie 8 Mile, that's kind of what happened. Like he exposed his flaws first, and no one could use it against him.
You
I love
the
that.
rap scene at the end.
Yeah, yeah. He
Yes.
dissed himself and then dissed the guy and was like, "You ain't got
Yes.
shit on me, bro. You ain't got shit to do here." Like, and like I think that's really what molded that part of me, was because I seen that, and I'm like, damn, I'm
Yeah.
always gonna be about that.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't gonna catch
And
me.
he
I'm
was
gonna
like,
catch myself.
such and such did F my girl, but I'm still
Still
standing here saying, fuck
free
the
will.
free
Yeah,
will.
exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, Eminem, that's right. But yeah,
Yes.
so I think that really would, that's probably the biggest piece that drove this part of me, was that moment, seeing that, and I was like, dang, like if you can get in front of yourself before somebody else does, then you can never really get got. And so I'm like, always like, well, just be you and be free. And I'm Joe
Extreme
Warren. There's things,
ownership.
but there are things I haven't just divulged to the world. There's things I'm still not going to.
That's cool. That's cool.
I don't think
That's
it's the
fair.
world's place to know everything about me. It's not everyone's
That's fair.
business to
I
know
got
everything.
some secrets too.
Yeah. But I don't think it's everyone's business to know everything. But I'm an open book for the most part. If you ask me, I'm gonna tell you. But if you don't
Right.
ask me, I ain't
But
gonna tell
you would have to like ask me about that specific secret, right?
you.
Like
Yeah,
which
like,
nobody
so
knows enough to ask you about, right? So
where were
it's
you
like,
at
yeah, if
on
you
this day?
ask me.
Like, it's like, huh? Well, gotta go. Podcast over. Like,
All right, everybody. Peace.
we out. Disclaimer. But yeah, this was good. This was so good, Chantel. Like, oh man,
For
this
sure, for sure.
definitely needed. I'm over here sweating. This is hot in here. But no, this was so good.
For sure. Stop
Yeah.
sweating.
No, it's hot in here. That's all. I'm not like nervous. I guess saying that makes it sound like I'm nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm just sweating.
I'm not nervous. I'm just sweating because that sounds weird. Yo, man. Shout out to the fathers out there. Just
represent.
Black fathers, husbands.
You are needed more than you realize.
Like I don't even have the words to articulate it, but just like y'all, it.
I'll say it for you. As a man who didn't have his father in his life, and being a father, I see the importance of raising my daughter, why I was needed to be a father. And so for all the men out there, like, please do your best to be in your kid's life. Do your best, because they need you more than you will ever realize. And you don't understand how much of a role you play in their development and how they actually come out. It's a two-person job. Not one person can just do it perfectly. You need both. And fathers, we do need you out there.
Man.
And yeah, so let's keep it up.
It's something you do every single day, it's hard to like get lost in like the minutia of like, is it working? Like, do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
It is. The impact of the work you're putting in, it far outweighs just the life of your child. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna affect the way that they raise their children. It's gonna affect the way that they choose a mate, right? Because they know what it's like to have a present father, right? So because of that, when it's time for me to have kids, I'm gonna do that with the mindset. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then that's gonna affect generations. Like, we have no idea what this takes. And if you have sons, sons who see their father, they're gonna be like, I know what it's like to have my dad around. So there's no way in hell I could have a kid and not be present. Like, what you're doing is changing generations.
Yeah.
Like, it changes generations. Like, and I think that is so important. And I don't know how many fathers realize that, but y'all, you guys are needed. You're necessary. And the impact of what you're doing on an everyday basis hasn't even been seen yet. And it won't be seen, you know what I mean, until generations and generations and generations down the line.
Yeah.
And it's not about money, it's just about presence. And
amen. I mean, amen. That's all I can say. Like, that was good. So yeah, shout out to you fathers out there. Keep doing the good work. And really be intentional about your parenting. Take it seriously, because it's a serious thing. And Chantel, thank you. This was I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this today. Really enjoyed it. It's nice. It was nice, right? It was nice. Yeah. So if y'all out there, better hit that like button. That's all I'm gonna tell you. I'm regular right now. Y'all better hit that like button. And
now.
And yeah, we're gonna be talking again soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion of open-minded thoughts, and being able to just have dialogue together. And there's not one right way. There's just the way. I actually didn't have a good quote. I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to have a good quote at the end, but I didn't have nothing. But yeah, so thank y'all so much for tuning this episode of Pack It Bag Podcast. Chantel, you have any parting words for the audience before we go?
Peace out, suckers.
Okay, never mind. Well, on that note, peace out, suckers.
Peace out, suckers.
Peace, love, and hair grease and Pack It Bag Podcast. We outro. Later, y'all. See